Welcome to Issues That Matter. I'm Cynthia Pooler. My guest today is Alan Collinge. He's the founder of Student Loan Justice. And Alan and I are going to talk about the fact that he thinks that there's a coup going on in the Democratic Party to oust Biden. So, Alan, when did that thought first occur to you?
It actually started before the debate. It was about an hour before the debate. I was watching Newsmax, which is a conservative channel, and they were in the spin room interviewing people, and Gavin Newsom showed up. And I thought to myself, that's odd. Number one, that Newsmax would be interviewing Gavin Newsom, but number two, just the fact that he was there at all.
Mm.
Imagine if Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren was in the spin room pushing for Biden before. I mean, it just struck me as quite odd. And then the debate was what it was. Biden was bad. He's always bad. He was maybe a little worse than typically on Thursday night, but I'd say he was vintage Biden. Not a great performance, as we all know. But then after the debate, the CNN talking head booth, all the Democratic DNC operatives who were, typically they'll say, oh, well, of course there were rough points. He's 81 years old, but he made some very strong points. He mentioned the morals of an alley cat and he was strong on a board. That's what I would expect. And that's what these people do and what they have always done my entire adult life. They didn't do that. They were all unanimously throwing Biden under the bus. And within 3 to 4 minutes, people were talking about it's maybe Van Jones, for example. Maybe it's time for him to do something else, to step down. And right about then, I was like, wait a minute, something is not right here.
So
And
Alan, you think that was all scripted?
oh, absolutely scripted. And it's not just me. I live and breathe the media. I have for 20 years narrowly on the student loan justice issue. But some very smart people who I respect, some very accomplished journalists, Matt Taibbi, Walter Kern, others. I was involved in a live stream chat with them, and I just put it out there, guys. This looks like a Democratic coup. This is planned. This is not organic at all. And they completely agreed. And I can even maybe bring up the video for you where that whole thing went down live if you want me to. But I have a lot of respect for both Matt, and Walter is a very good journalist in his own right. And I mean, it was just obvious to me, anyways. And
Mhm.
so yeah, that just does not happen organically. The DNC people, they have their marching orders, they have their talking points, and according to them, according to people like Rachel Maddow, everybody was on the phone to some muckety mucks as the debate was going forward. And by the end of the debate, their marching orders were very clear from probably donors, is my guess. And so this is kind of a coup. This somebody within the Democratic establishment is making a play for Biden. The knives are out, and I have some peculiar specialized knowledge on this, some sort of a background about who I think it might be. And this really comes down to Gavin Newsom. It's just the fact that he was there and he looked like, the cat that had eaten the canary, even before the debate. And then afterwards, there he was, dutifully supporting the president. But I suspect strongly that, well, in fact, I think it's unmistakable that there is a coup if you want to call it that, going on with the Democratic Party, and that Gavin Newsom is involved. And if that is true, then things get really interesting. And so I obviously don't have any actionable evidence to support this. It's just a hunch. But Gavin Newsom runs around in a certain political circle in California. So this is a circle that is inhabited by other very high-profile politicians. Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, Susan Rice. This is a sort of a Bay Area ultra elite wealthy circle. And at the center of this circle seems to be this family. It's called the Swig family, SWIG. So this is I guess, as old money gets in California. This is an old money real estate empire family, the Swig family. And I would urge everybody watching this, just Google Swig and any of the the politicians' names that I just mentioned: Newsom, Harris, Susan Rice, Nancy Pelosi, and you will see that they are just baked into this political clique in the Bay Area that seems to be the Swig family at the center of things. This is why it matters for student loans, Cynthia. As you know, I fight for student loan justice, have my whole life. Our group started the petition that launched the idea of canceling student loans by executive order into the national spotlight. So unlike passing a bill through Congress, which is ridiculous and extraordinarily expensive, the president and the secretary can cancel student loans without needing any money from the Treasury, without adding anything to the national debt, simply writing off the loans. There's no cost. And because the taxpayers have already been repaid the amount that they originally lent out, there's actually no true cost to the taxpayers. It's a great idea, in my humble opinion. But the opposition to canceling student loans by executive order started with the Swig family. So when our petition really started taking off, we were getting hundreds of thousands of signatures, and we were on all the media, and people like Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer actually embraced the concept and introduced a bill in the Senate calling on then President Trump to cancel student loans. This woman, I think it was Susan Swig, if memory serves. I may be getting that first name wrong, but the Swig matriarch, I guess, if that's what you want to call her, she circulated a memo saying, just excoriating, just absolutely attacking the concept of canceling student loans by executive order. She said, basically, we can't have this. Canceling student loans by executive order is no. Cancel student loans, yes, but by Congress. And that's just stupid in the first place, because Congress just isn't going to pass that bill. And because of pay-go rules, you have to raise $1 trillion in new tax money if you want to cancel $1 trillion in student loans. It's just ridiculous. But that's what she did. She circulated this memo. And Nancy Pelosi very dutifully turned around right after that and made a very famous interview where she said, the president cannot cancel loans by executive order. That's Congress. And lo and behold, a year or so later, more than a year maybe, when the Supreme Court knocked down Biden's student loan cancellation effort, Chief Justice Roberts, in his majority opinion, quoted Nancy Pelosi, I think verbatim, in that opinion. So this has if indeed there is a Democratic coup underway, and if indeed Gavin Newsom is involved, then it's a no-brainer that this political clique in Northern California is definitely involved. The Swig family is definitely involved. And to all the student loan borrowers out there, if, for example, Gavin Newsom winds up somehow on the ticket after the convention, or really, even if Kamala Harris is on the ticket, or maybe what's maybe more likely, I would predict, if both of them are on the ticket in whichever order that winds up being, then I would tell everybody with student loans, we are in very, 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 we are not in friendly territory here. They're all the talk of canceling student loans by executive order will go away. Even returning bankruptcy rights to student loans, which is our number one focus, probably would go away. So that's my theory, Cynthia.
Wow. Now, I did an interview with Scott Ritter on Friday, and a lot of the comments to that interview was saying exactly what you're saying, that a coup is underway. And, you know, it's totally amazing. Now, Biden was the one that wanted this debate, and he prepped for a week, and he comes out that bad. That's incredible.
It's hard to say what Biden actually wanted. I'm not in that room. We don't know. We don't know how that setup happened. But if I was on Biden's staff, if I was running the show, knowing how Biden is just a terrible debater and always has been, that format where there's no crowd, there's only two guys, and they're not even allowed to really talk to each other back and forth, not much, because of the way the muting went. That is exactly the wrong format for a Joe Biden. He needs a fast and loose atmosphere where he can say this and say that and talk out of the side of his neck like he has always done. And I followed Joe Biden around for over a year in Iowa, by the way, and that's, people say he's senile, and yeah, he's definitely getting older. There's no doubt, but I say he's senile like a fox. That his shtick has always been to talk really in a garbled manner, so that you can really never pin him down on almost anything. He's always done that. I think it's more of a feature than a bug with his whole community. I think it's a well-honed skill over many years in politics. But yeah, if people like Scott Ritter are saying it, Matt Taibbi, Walter Kern, you know, it's just a little too obvious to me. And what's really even more, possibly more telling, is the mainstream media. And I'm not saying that they're a monolith, but you're not seeing anyone in the mainstream media even mention the possibility that maybe this is a plan. Maybe this is, knives out for Caesar type of thing. And I find that in itself is just very, very odd. So I can only hope that there are some insiders out there, maybe maybe a domestic caretaker, a janitor, who knows, somebody out there who happens to know something and have some actionable information. Because indeed, a conspiracy like this, there's just too many working pieces involved. It's pretty hard to hide. Now, so I would hope that if there's anybody out there who has some good information to evince some light on this, I hope that they'll come forward. More than that, I hope that honest, uninvolved journalists out there will also take a very hard look at this. And if they do, I would say look very hard at this Swig family, SWIG.
I've been interested in politics ever since I was a kid, and I've never heard of the Swig family. Are they primarily in California?
Yeah, I haven't done a ton of research on them, but as best I can determine, this is really it's a California thing, but it's really more a Northern California thing. It's really kind of a San Francisco thing. So this family has amassed a vast real estate empire. They actually own a small college in San Francisco, an environmental related college. Very liberal, if you want to talk about the coastal liberal elites, the Swig family would be right at the center of that universe, I think. But it's primarily a California thing.
So does Jill and Joe Biden realize this is going on?
Yeah, that's anybody's guess. You'd really. Um, I don't run in those circles, Cynthia, so I would be probably the
Right,
last person who would have any information about that.
right.
Um, but people should be smart by now. People have watched debates and seen how it goes. You do a debate, and then you've got the Republican spinners over here, the Democratic spinners, and they're both claiming their candidate won. And never, ever, ever do you see one side saying, "Yep, our guy lost. He has to go." Like never. Like
Mhm.
I could maybe in a non-conspiratorial world where that wasn't going on, I could maybe see some murmurings from maybe a couple of the pundits as the thing wore on. But guys, I'm telling you, this was from the get-go. Um, the fix was in. Uh, these people have their marching orders. Van Jones is not going to go off the reservation and all of a sudden start calling for Joe Biden to step aside without knowing full well that that's that's baked into the cake already.
So I was watching the video a little while ago, the end of the debate. Trump walked off the stage and he walked backstage and so forth, unassisted. It was okay for a man his age. Um, it wasn't a long walk, but then they highlighted Jill and Joe, and Jill Biden held Joe Biden's hand as he was going. It was just a few steps, and
Well,
he had to be assisted in going down the steps. My question to you is, do you think all of this stuff can be can is the proper word, is staged? Do you think he's as deteriorated as we see him on television, or is this an act?
based on what I have seen and having followed Joe Biden around for a long time, many, 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 many hours have I sat in a room with him doing his campaign thing in Iowa. Um, he seems like he's maybe a little slower than he used to be. But you know, a key point is that after these debates, the way it normally would go is the CNNs and the MSNBCs, they are going to play the strong points from that debate over and over and over again. And there were a couple of strong points in that debate. When he talked about Trump's morals of an alley cat, that was strong. There were some bona fide strong points there that they could have seized on. None of them did that. If you look at CNN, MSNBC, all they are replaying and replaying all the weak points, like you mentioned. Wife leading him by the hand down the stairs. I would bet that she probably has led him off the stage in many, probably other debates. I'm not sure. I don't remember, but that's been true for a long time. You can probably look at the 2020 debate 4 years ago, and you can edit that thing to make him look pretty much as bad as he looked on Thursday night. So, that really is the proof. That really is the evidence that at least part of the DNC establishment is just out to get this guy. And if you want, if I can share my screen, Cynthia,
Sure.
I can show you the, the point where Matt Taibbi and Walter Kern came to the exact same conclusion. This is
Okay,
kind of
go ahead.
interesting if you want me to. Okay, let's see if
Yeah.
I can organize this. So I'm going to share my screen. Oh, you actually have screen sharing disabled, it looks like. So that's okay. It's not a big deal. But it was just a video. It was just a live stream where they were both just going, "Wow, what are we looking at here? This is really confusing." And then And then Matt brings up my comment about it being a Democratic coup, and Walter was like, yeah, that's exactly what's happening. That guy is right. So yeah, it's
So
not just me.
if he, if the president is deteriorating as quickly as we see, why wouldn't he embrace, or why wouldn't the establishment embrace other candidates to challenge Biden this year? That wasn't the case.
That is, I think, probably the most important question. Look at what the Democratic establishment did through the primaries. They totally screwed so many people out of those primaries. Like, they probably told Bernie, nope, Bernie, no, don't even try. And he didn't. And Elizabeth Warren didn't even try. Marianne Williamson just got completely screwed. She's kind of a friend of mine. I feel really sorry for the way she was treated. But there was never any chance for any competition in these primaries. And, Biden was pretty much the same today as he was, 6 months ago.
Uh-huh.
And so, yeah, um, the hypocrisy, the irony of the Democrats saying, "Oh, this election is about protecting or saving democracy," and then they themselves have just completely taken control of the primary and nomination process, apparently. At least that's what they're trying to do. So I don't know. All I can say is time will tell. This may be just, this one San Francisco, or maybe another click. I don't know. I'm open to any other possibilities. There's maybe other things going on. It may come to nothing. They may look back. They may look at things and say, wait, the general public, they didn't seem to have too many problems with Biden's performance. We fundraised really strongly after the debate, and they did.
Right.
So this may come to nothing. But I can tell you this: if the people in the media, the CNN, the MSNBCs, and if they have their way, we will not see Joe Biden on the ticket in November.
But it seems as though, like you said, the front
And
runner.
by the way, I don't even like Joe Biden. I think he was the worst candidate in the field. He was terrible on student loans, worse than almost anyone. So sorry, go ahead.
Well, he more or less put student loans on the table and screwed this whole country, right?
Well, Biden completely faked it on student loans. Before the election, he was saying, "Oh, I'm going to cancel this and that, and I'm going to eliminate your loans if you went to a public college or an HBCU and you earn less than $125,000 a year. I'm going to return bankruptcy to student loans." He said all these things before the election. Then right after the election, he says, "Oh, I'm probably going to get in trouble for this, but I'm not doing that." And then the whole thing with the Swig family and cancellation by executive order and so forth. Was unceremonious. Well, it was faked. His loan cancellation that he did try, he used the wrong law. Nancy Pelosi, Susan Rice, these other California Democrats were against it. Kamala Harris, I don't remember her ever saying anything about it. But I think the Democrats wanted that Supreme Court case to fail. It's just pretty obvious. But I will say this: that maybe the strongest proactive, constructive point that I can make tonight is that no matter what happens with the Democrats, they are in a greatly weakened position right now. And there are 50 million student loan borrowers, 40 million distressed, who vote, and half of whom are either, more than half, are Republican or independent. That's a lot of voters. And Joe Biden today can still cancel every nickel of federally owned student loan debt. 90% of all student debt. He can do that by executive order using the Higher Education Act, Section 1082 A6. So Section 1082 of the Higher Education Act. He can do that. He has not tried that yet, and it's the first thing he should have done, which he never did. So if the Democrats need to throw a Hail Mary. I think that is, in fact, that's the only thing that I can think of that would rally 40 million distressed student loan borrowers to his cause. So,
So, listening to you, I just lost my train of thought. Um, oh, if this if this coup that you envision comes to pass and somebody else assumes the position of candidate on the Democratic ticket for president of the United States, then the American people really have no say in this process. It's they choose who they want and screw the people. You know, I've seen it done in my locality, and it's really sickening. So if this goes all the way up to the president of the United States, and this comes to pass, and Newsom or somebody else will assume, the nomination, that could set a precedent. Would you agree?
well, yeah, we've seen, and I'm no historian, but we've seen brokered conventions in the past, so it's not a completely new thing. There's always been all sorts of insider baseball going on with politics, both parties. Um, but the hypocrisy is mind numbing. Talking about democracy being on the ballot, and then the Democrats themselves are just completely shutting the voters out of the process. I mean, at this point, if they wanted to hand the election to Donald Trump, there is no better way to do that. And I don't know. I mean, Trump also was very terrible in that debate. That debate format also actually didn't serve him well either, and he sort of exposed himself for just the shameless, angry, vitriolic, bombastic, just name, not name dropper, but just a bombast. He's just an angry, vicious, attacking guy. He's got about 7 talking points, and he just recycles them over and over and over again. And so he certainly didn't win. I don't think many independents or Democrats saw the debate and was like, you know what? I'm voting for Trump. I don't think that happened. Both candidates lost that debate, quite frankly, in my humble opinion.
So nobody wins.
Well, this is, and I said this over a year ago. I said this is going to be an older, tireder, angrier rehash of 2020. And lo and behold, that's what it is. We've got some new issues to talk about, but the dynamics are the same. And, this just goes to show that, in my humble opinion, both political parties they've run their course. They are no longer connected to the people they claim to be fighting for. The people, they don't represent us. Certainly the Swig family is not looking out for our best interests, and neither are the donors to the GOP. One very interesting fact I just learned a couple months ago: in an average presidential election year, only about 2% of the population actually donate money to either the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, or their PACs or their candidates. So that's 2% of the people. That's like 3, 4, 5 million people. Why are we letting these two parties run the country? Why are we doing that? So as you know, I am actually running for president. So this is a nice segue for me to tell people to go to collingeforpresident.com. I will absolutely cancel student loans. Make no mistake. That's my number one issue. But there's also RFK. And there are also a lot of other people out there. And I truly hope that at some point, hopefully this election, people will finally see that it's time to buck the system. And I say buck with an F. The two parties are at this point a grave danger to this country, in my humble opinion, Cynthia. And you talk about throwing your vote away. I think voting for either a D or an R, that is truly throwing your vote away at this point. Why would anyone? Why would anyone do that? I don't get it.
Mm. So, Alan, it's going to be an interesting 4 months. Um, so from time to time, when something comes up that's pretty cringeworthy, I'd like you back on issues that matter so that you could, voice your opinion and, you know, tout your own horn for running for president. Why don't you ask Biden and Trump that you want to be on the debate stage with them?
Absolutely. I wish I had the secret phone number for them both.
So you've been listening to Alan Collinge, founder of studentloanjustice.org. I'm Cynthia Pooler. This is Issues That Matter. And if you like this show, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Alan, we'll talk again soon. Have a
Sounds great,
great day.
Cynthia.
Thank
Lots of
you.
cringeworthy things are going to be coming up very shortly, I'm sure.
So we'll talk again.
Sounds good.
Have a great day.